Blau here with an update from your POA board. When I last spoke to you, I discussed what was then a fast-developing situation impacting life as we know it. Of course, I'm referring to the coronavirus and the havoc that it is inflicting across the globe. 2 weeks ago, we were operating under orders from Governor Bill Lee that restricted certain activities and were designed to slow the spread and flatten the curve of the pandemic. Since then, we have gone through 2 more iterations of orders that have taken us from safer at home to stay at home, while closely defining what activities and services were considered essential. These statewide mandates were in effect through April 14th. On Tuesday of this week, by Executive Order number 27, Governor Lee extended his other orders through April 30th and indicated that he is studying a phased reopening of the economy after that. Similar national mandates are in effect till May 1st. Here in Tellico Village, we are operating under these guidelines and will continue to do so through the rest of April. At this time, we will reassess where we stand. We are taking a very conservative approach due to the fact that the village is the very definition of an at-risk population. Our average age is over 60. We have many people who have underlying health conditions, and as a group, we are very well traveled. Coronavirus, or COVID-19, is in the news as an almost constant barrage of information. I doubt that there is anyone that hasn't heard the grim statistics. Your board and POA management are constantly monitoring these developments and reacting as the situation demands it. So where do we stand now? According to the latest figures from the Tennessee Department of Health, as of April 14th, Loudoun County has 17 confirmed COVID cases, and Monroe County has 9. Fortunately, none of these cases has resulted in a death, and the majority of these have already recovered. The good news, according to the governor's briefing, is that we have seen 11 straight days of single-digit increases in the number of new cases here in Tennessee. This does represent a flattening of the curve. I'm often asked whether any of the Loudoun or Monroe County cases are in Tellico Village, and I certainly wish that I could access that information and give it to you, but the state's Attorney General has prohibited release of information beyond the county in which it occurred due to privacy law concerns. Only last week he agreed to a narrow exception where County 911 dispatchers would be given the addresses of cases. When EMS personnel are dispatched to an identified address, they will be told that it is a hot house, but not who in the house is afflicted with COVID-19. This was done to protect first responders and other emergency personnel. In last week's POA board meeting, Fire Chief Jerry Doherty advised the board that he had taken the department to a readiness condition 1, which is their highest level. This was, and as a result, had implemented the associated protocols. This was done out of an abundance of caution, even though that he has not been able to confirm any cases anywhere in the village. In reality, every call is now treated as if it has COVID implications. The Hopewell Fire Department is operating under similar procedures. Speaking of last week's board meeting, it was live streamed for the first time, and there was an opportunity for folks at home to transmit questions. Board and POA management activities are considered essential services under Governor Lee's orders, and the business of Tellico Village goes on despite other forces. We did the meeting live so that our proceedings are as transparent as possible and so the community can participate. However, we were careful to protect meeting participants and necessary POA staff by implementing some changes in how we handled the meeting. Obviously, the meeting was not open to the public, other than through the live stream option. Incidentally, the meeting was also recorded and is available for viewing on the POA website's board page. The boardroom was thoroughly sanitized prior to the meeting. 4 board members volunteered to attend the meeting remotely, allowing us to keep the number of the people in the room at a minimum. We enforced social distancing by maintaining at least a 6-foot space between meeting participants. Only a limited number of POA staff was in attendance, allowing us to manage the meeting, so only 10 people at a maximum were in the room at the same time. Presenters were called into the room one at a time. The next presenter was not summoned until the previous presenter had left. The presenter's table and microphone were disinfected after each presentation. This was our first attempt at live streaming. It came off pretty well, even though there were a few technical glitches, and we'll get better with experience. Prior to the board meeting, we were confronted by the governor's April 2nd order to close all recreation facilities in the state. The board came together electronically to address the issue of Recreation Department membership fees. By a unanimous vote, it was decided to stop billing the monthly rec fees and to extend the memberships of annual and semi-annual members to coincide with the period of the facility shutdowns. Our rules require that electronic votes be ratified by the board at its next meeting, which was done last week, again, unanimously. As of today, the only Recreation Department facilities that are available for use are our walking and hiking trails. Please remember to socially distance by at least 6 feet when using this amenity. The governor's order also shuttered all of the restaurants in Tennessee except for telephone or online orders on a delivery or curbside carryout basis. The order also prohibits allowing food to be consumed at the site where it is provided, which will explain why we took all of the furniture off of all of the terraces in the village. Hence, we have converted the Blue Heron and the Kahiti Pub and Grill to carry-out and delivery-only facilities and have changed their hours to 11 to 7 p.m. daily. I urge you to support these facilities as our food service group has been hit especially hard by these closures. The snack shacks at Toqua and Tanasi continue to operate when weather permits, since the executive order designates golf as an essential activity, provided that CDC guidelines are followed. If you've played recently, you've noticed changes in how we operate the courses, so we can comply with this requirement and as a result, leave them open. An important item on the board agenda last week was to formulate a contingency plan for dealing with the fallout from the restrictions. Obviously, lost revenue associated with the recreation and food service shutdowns is a hit that we need to deal with. On a positive note, we ended 2019 very strong, and through February and into March, we were off to an excellent start to the year before the crisis hit. So we're going into this in a position of strength and are taking actions designed to make sure that we emerge just as strong. In a crisis, cash is king, and we are taking actions that will conserve our cash while positioning us to come out of this robustly. All expenditures and capital projects have been looked at with a keen eye and either delayed, deferred to next year, or deleted. Your board and POA staff is sensitive to the fact that some planned expenditures cannot be delayed because that will just make matters worse in the future. We are being careful not to make short-sighted decisions that will just come back to bite us later. We will come out of this, and when we do, we want to be in a position to maintain our forward momentum. I get asked a lot of questions and have been spending much of my time in lockdown answering them. I thought that I would share some of the common concerns and questions that I've heard in the last couple of weeks. One question is, with so much of the POA's focus on the COVID-19 outbreak, is the Asian carp issue taking a back seat? This is a simple answer: absolutely not. If you saw last week's board meeting, you saw a presentation from the board's Asian Carp Committee. You might recall that I told you in January that this was going to be considered a priority objective, at which point we appointed 4 board members to a committee to drive the board's efforts relative to the Asian carp. That committee continues to work and engage the community, elected officials, agency representatives, and others in attacking this problem. There has been no fall off in the board's interest and efforts despite other pressing issues. Another question: what is being done about seasonal home rentals in the village? This question poses an interesting issue. The POA does not have the ability to police all home rentals in the village, nor does it have the authority to put a stop to such rentals. Frankly, it is unlikely that we would even know of all the homes that are available for rent, or if the homeowner is renting them personally or through an agency. We have contacted all Tellico Village rental agencies and asked that they advise potential clients of the CDC and state guidelines requiring that they self-quarantine for 14 days after their arrival, and of the social distancing and stay-at-home rules. We also learned through these contacts that planned seasonal home rentals in the village have largely been canceled and that new activity has basically dried up. If you are self-renting a home, please make sure that your tenants know and follow the guidelines. Another question, we have several new homes under construction in our neighborhood. We've observed that the construction and landscaping crews are not observing the social distancing rules. What can be done about this? Clayton Taylor, who is the Assistant Director of Public Works and is responsible for the ACC and its home permitting process, has notified the builders that are constructing homes in the village of their responsibility to assure that their crews are following the CDC guidelines, specifically as they apply to social distancing and not coming to work if they or someone in their family are ill. ACC personnel have made this part of their process as they visit home sites for other purposes or if they observe non-compliance as they drive through the village. Landscaping work that is not part of a new home construction is much more problematic. Typically in those situations, the landscaper is hired by the homeowner to do a project that may or may not involve a permit. As a result, it is unlikely that the POA would know the landscaper, as there are literally dozens of such companies that do work here in the village, nor where the work is being performed. It is the homeowner's responsibility to make sure that their landscapers are enforcing the rules. If you see a situation in your neighborhood, the most expeditious way to handle it is to talk to your neighbor about it. Another question I keep hearing is, I've heard the fire department is postponing its annual open house and fundraiser until the fall. Is that true? It's partially true. The annual open house is being rescheduled to the October timeframe. However, the capital funding drive will still occur in May. This fundraiser allows the fire department to keep its equipment up to date and to fund reserves for future equipment upgrades, which helps them respond to our needs as well as maintain and improve their ISO rating, which we all benefit from in our home insurance rates. I encourage you to support your fire department. Another question that I get a lot is, it seems to be taking longer to get answers from the POA when we contact them. What's going on? In order to protect those who serve us, the POA has implemented new contact and scheduling protocols as part of its emergency plan. Many employees are working from home or are in the office on different schedules. In public works, skeleton crews are being utilized to deal with essential services like water and sewer, roads, sanitizing workplaces, and emergency maintenance. Other public works employees are at home and on call for emergency call-out. Recreation department facilities are being maintained in a readiness state using just 2 employees on these sites. The lobbies of the POA office and the Welcome Center have been closed to walk-in traffic, but selected forms are available and can be submitted via Dropbox in the POA office vestibule. The Welcome Center can issue materials on a call-ahead basis through the drive-up window in the back of the building. If you need information from POA employees, please use telephone or email messaging and try to be patient. Another question that I get, I've heard that brush pickup has been suspended for the duration of this situation. Is that true? This has been a topic of conversation on Nextdoor, and it's a question that I've received many times. Fortunately, it's not true. As I said before, Public Works is running with skeleton crews in the wake of the current situation in order to protect our employees. One of those crews is assigned to the task of brush pickup and is slowly working through the neighborhoods. I know that this is a time of year when all of us get out and start cleaning up our properties, and that generates large amounts of brush. Given the current conditions, brush pickup will be a slower process than we've been used to in the past. But we'll work through this as time goes on. We all just need to be a bit patient in these trying circumstances. And finally, this is a question I can't tell you how many times I've heard. When will all this end? And I truly wish that I could answer this question. Governor Lee's executive orders have been extended through April 30th. Federal guidelines are in place through May 1st. The CDC guidance has no end date. Will the governor extend his orders beyond the end of this month? Will the federal restrictions be lifted on May 1st? What will the CDC ask us to do beyond what's already in place? Any attempt to answer these questions would be pure speculation on my part. Your board and POA staff are continuing to monitor the situation and making plans for what is a hard to predict future. Here's what I do know. As I said before, we live in a village that is the literal definition of an at-risk community. Our residents have an average age over 60, and many have serious underlying conditions or compromised immune systems. To highlight just how serious that situation is, consider that 83% of the deaths in Tennessee are in the 60 and over age group. Add to that, as a group, as I said before, we are extremely well traveled. That is why, as well as the rest of your POA board, we'll act conservatively and make our decisions in such a manner as to maximize the protection of our population. I encourage you to follow the rules and not risk exposing yourself or your neighbors to this disease. In situations such as we are confronted with today, communication is the absolute key. At the outset, the POA invoked its crisis communication protocols, and information has been flowing to you in the form of telegrams, teleflashes, special bulletins, live streamed meetings, and TVB presentations. It is important that you know what is going on, get your questions and concerns addressed, and understand the current situation. If you are not already a Telegram subscriber, please sign up now. You can do so by calling the Welcome Center or on the POA website's homepage. I will continue to update you periodically as time goes by. In the meantime, keep doing what you are doing to slow the spread, follow the CDC guidance, and above all, stay safe.